we don't have the infrastructure for that. And I think the water's an issue too. I can't see the need for taking public land and making it all that land that is essentially going to be developed. I think, and my concern, I'll end this.
Okay, so this is the question I get asked the most about that amendment. But none of the pieces included in that amendment are for development. They're all for infrastructure. So the little piece close to Zion National Park that people are worried about is to connect that trail. It's to get people out recreating on the trail. We've got pieces to finish the Smithsonian Butte Road and to get people around the park on those roads so we can upgrade those roads. Pieces for water infrastructure. One of them is to expand the airport in St. George. But none of these are for development. They're for infrastructure. So we worked with the county, St. George City, and the water district. I didn't get Rockville and Springdale involved, and I've already apologized to them for that. This was one of those, like, it happened fast and we had a go, no-go situation and we moved. But I'm not trying to develop any land with any of those pieces. What we're trying to do is connect where we've got gaps in our infrastructure.
Okay, so the piece by Zion, for the rest of the development, the housing.
It's for the trail.
The trail's there, and you can walk right through.
But right now you've got to go through the federal government to do anything with the trail. So if we let the city buy the land, then they can maintain the trail.
Okay, the bridge that made it over to Rockville, it's not even yet, it's just something that you.
Okay, that's the plan. So those kind of projects are what we're trying to do with this amendment. And I know it happened late at night. I'll tell you what happened late at night because it was a 17-hour hearing. It could have happened at 10 a.m. It just happened to happen late at night. But what I'm trying to do with this amendment is take small, very targeted pieces of federal land that are in the middle of where our infrastructure needs to connect, sell them at fair market value to the local governments. So the local governments can do things that are already part of them, like the Smithsonian Road, but none of these are development pieces.
Rockville can't afford it.
It's the county that put that piece in.
So what's the point of the Rockville? That's what trail you're talking about? The trail?
Yes.
This is Smithsonian Road to SR9, so they don't have to go down into Rockville and cross Bridge Road.
Oh, sorry, I was mixing up pieces. It's hard. There's a whole bunch of them, so doing this off the top of my head without looking at the map makes it harder. But that's the intent of this. If you look, they're all little pieces. They're all for infrastructure. So, there's a debate to be had. Some people don't like the infrastructure pieces, but let's at least debate what we're trying to do. Sorry, yeah, let me go to her and then her and then.
I guess my question is, are there other projects? It sounds like this is all about getting a permitting process.
Not getting a permitting process, changing them, making it more efficient to permit geothermal. This was all about geothermal energy and how we can
But it sounds like this is also the amendment is maybe also a piece to bypass the normal permitting processes that cities would go through. Could they also do some processes? Or is this the only way this can?
No, so Congress has jurisdiction over federal land. There's administrative processes for disposal of public land because Congress has given a little bit of that authority to the executive branch to create administrative processes. But right now, the administrative process is so gummed up. So if you walk into a deal in office and said, we need this 1 acre piece for a well, they tell you 5 years out from being able to look at it. If I real Congress has the authority to do it. So my team worked to find these little pieces. They're starting to pile up. The local government needs for infrastructure. Put them in an amendment to move a piece of legislation. So it's not Congress has the ability to do legislation on public land. There's also an administrative process that's really so cumbersome. This is not going around the process. It's Congress's prerogative.
Address the environmental concerns that about any of these pieces.
So it would still have to go through all of the processes. In order say this passes exactly the way it is in the amendment, goes through the same way the president signs it. In order for BLM to do a land sale, they still have to do NEPA, they still have to do a consultation with Fish and Wildlife Service, they still have to do the historic preservation consultation. We go through all of that. This is just Congress telling to get to work.
Is that in the amendment? Is that written into the amendment?
No, that's the process BLM has for disposing of land.
Well, that kind of ties into my question. And thank you for taking it.
Sorry, I did tell you I'd come back to you.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
Are you okay? Okay, I'll answer yours.
Okay, I'll be quick. It seems to me, not too long ago, there was a lawsuit, a Supreme Court lawsuit in the United States, which was a chance and an opportunity to unappropriated BLM, federal lands, and put it into state control, state hands. That was thwarted presently. May come up again, and probably will. But right now, this feels a little bit about like, well, if we can't do it this way, we might be able to do it in smaller ways to do it. And let me just finish one quick second. One of my concerns is, if we do not believe that FLIPMA and the processes that are currently in place to safeguard our public lands are good enough. Let's change those internally, as you stated, and not take them to state rights where they don't have to go through this rigorous process and sometimes unwieldy process so much of this system requires.
So this isn't handing over to the state. This is a sale at fair market value of small pieces that the state, the county, the local governments have requested. So they'd have to go buy them, which is different than the disposal process where, you know, somebody applies and they get like a recreation public purposes, you know, no cost, they can use it. It's in the reconciliation bill, and reconciliation is a revenue generator. So we've got all these little pieces that we need the local governments have access to. So I wrote an amendment and said, we've got all these piling up, let's put those in reconciliation for fair market value. They're very targeted, very limited, but they'd be sold to help pay down the debt at fair market value. So it's not going around the process, it is part of the process. Like Congress being able to say, these are our priorities, is part of the process.
To clarify, these were not part of the resource management plan disposable lands.
They were.
They were part
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask about the security?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? What's your reasoning?
Because it was a rule that came out at the end of the last administration that limited motorized access to places that are recreation areas.
So not for all motorized access, it's just for ATVs, right?
But like these same pieces, if you have a piece in the middle you can't use, and it really hurts motorized access on the whole thing.
We're looking at like the bigger ecological impact. It's still accessible. It's only 23 miles.
It's not accessible to motorized vehicles if that,
Accessible to road.
but not if that rule had gotten implemented. So what the CRA does is make them go back.
I know it's scary. Yeah. But what's the motive? Because doing that, what's the longer term plan?
The motive is preserving access for motorized recreation. And we may disagree on that, but that's what
Do you take into account the ecological health?
Yep. I mean, it's a planning process. The planning process has to take that.
What can you tell me about the input of what's your research?
Yeah, I've worked on access in White Canyon National Recreation for years. I've been out like on the road. I've driven lots of input. The motorized recreation community felt like they were getting unnecessarily shut out without having a voice. There's just an assumption that motorized recreation is a problem when non-motorized is not. And I felt go back and drive.
They had the same access to the and it wasn't like it's still
Accessible for non-motorized.
for motorized, road ready motorized. Right?
Not on all of the sections. You want to know the motivation? That's the motivation. We may
Yes,
never
yeah,
agree on whether it was right or not, but it's the motivation behind that is to make sure we have access
So I guess
to
are there
recreation.
more plans? Do you have more plans in Wayne's City to reduce or to use that CRA?
Not obscure, very often used by both parties, but we're looking at it. I don't have any right now, but there may be some in the future. Yeah.
So I think it's backwards. With public lands that used to be in balance, we all need to work together. There's going to be compromises, but it feels like Fix Our Forest Act is going backwards. I think that this is going to impact future generations in a very negative way. My wife works for the Forest Service, and I think that the work that they do is good. They have a lot of people that are angry with them on both sides, right? But what we're doing with Fix Our Forest Act is, I don't think we're going in the right direction.
So tell me what you think is going to be the negative impact on future generations from Fix Our Forest.
Well, we're moving towards more clear cutting, or the 25% increase in vegetation. The Endangered Species Act stuff part of Fix Our Forest as well. I think that that's not good because when they're taking away the part that says that damaging habitat is not grassy these endangered species, we're going to see these endangered species.
So you can't damage habitat. What the Fix Our Forest Act is doing is stopping the creek towards potential habitat. You can't impact potential habitat that doesn't have species there.
What do you mean?
And so a lot of times when you're going through these processes, and like the Forest Service is writing a plan, they start protecting habitat that isn't designated as critical habitat because it's potential habitat. What we're trying to do is restore some common sense to moving forward on managing forests. And look, it's not my bill, it's the chairman's bill, I support it. But if you want to have a really robust conversation about all the details of the Fix Our Forest Act, Bruce Westerman is a forester. Okay, this probably better be my last one.
Well, I just had a question about one of the parcels that is on the west side of the Greater Bush Valley area. It looks like a road, like maybe potentially the western corridor in Washington County, and I was curious if there was going to be, if your amendment allows for public comment on that, on building on those parcels.
Yeah, there'll still be a NEPA process for it, so there will be public comment. Okay.
May I ask if ESA, that's like the
Okay, I said that was the last question, but it was fast, so I'll let you ask yours, and then I gotta go.
Just clarify, if you would,
Yeah.
the comment that this man made is the changing of the Endangered Species Act, the word harm, is that what you are speaking of that will have consequence for?
No, that's not in Fix Our Forest, that's an administrative fix that's coming out of the the head of the EPA. So let's see what happens with that process.
If I think it's very concerning by changing the term harm. I think it has very, very negative consequences.
Okay. What's your view on that? Okay. Oh, I said you had the last question. Now
There's talk about this plan reigniting the possibility for Colorado River pipeline.
I don't know who's saying that, but it's not something I've been talking about. It's not something I've done anything on. At some point, maybe, but that wasn't the motivation for any of the parcels in the event. Okay.
Radium in Rockville.
Okay, let's talk radium and Rockville. I'm a pushover. I hope you guys appreciate it.
We do.
I contacted your office. Your office told me that I haven't heard anything about radium in the water.
My office is here. I'll make sure we follow up on that. Kyle, will you make sure we follow up on radium in Rockville?
In the water.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad I let you go. Sometimes you forget the last question because things are going really well. And you get one that's well for us, but that was a perfect last question. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the process.
Thank you.